Hello, this is Ali with the Perception Trainers, author of The Perception Diet, and today we're going to talk about why you're not going to get rid of your ego and why you don't want to get rid of your ego. So if you've been following along, we've been talking about ego for the last couple of videos, and I will put the links to the last two videos down below, and if I haven't, please let me know that I didn't. So in the first video, we talked about the difference between the inner child, the ego, and the divine self, and we got to know and understand that in truth, what most of us are calling the ego, right? The jealousy, the fear, the I'm just out for myself, all the anger and sadness and not understanding, victim mentality that we see in the world that we think is causing all of our problems, that we're labeling ego is really just the immature inner child. The parts of ourselves that didn't learn, didn't grow with how the reality functions, didn't expand, didn't come to higher reasoning, higher thinking, higher order, higher complexity, so therefore got stuck in misunderstanding and now feels like a victim to the universe because the way that the inner child thinks that things should go is not in alignment with how the reality actually functions because it hasn't had a matured view of the reality, and therefore they suffer. Everything that the inner child does, because it doesn't understand how the reality works, doesn't work out the way that the inner child thinks it should, and then the inner child is like, well, we're being fucked over. And then so we think, I gotta get scared, right? And then and again, the inner child is also what we could call the shadow, the parts of the self that have not had the information that they need fed to them to grow and expand, become more ordered, more complex, more structured, more aware. Yeah? So they are devolving, causing decomposition, causing self-destruction, all of these things. That's the inner child. That's not the ego. It's the immature inner child, the child that doesn't understand how the reality functions, that doesn't understand its own power, right? The parts of you that don't understand your own power, the parts of you that don't understand why everything that happened to you to grow you, happened to you to help you understand yourself and the reality better, that you are not a victim, that you were victimized in a way in order to help you grow into who you are here to be. That's all that is, right? That fear, that anger, that control, that jealousy, that reactivity, all that pain, that's just the sad, lonely inner child, okay? The ego is the aspect of the divine that you represent, okay? And again, we really need to shift our understanding of the ego if we're ever going to move forward as a humanity. Because this is the thing. The next phase of humanity, of human life, of evolution, is moving away and out of, growing up and out of the old idea that individuality means you are against everyone else. That to be an individual is to be cast out, to be not a part of the tribe, to be not a part of society, to be not unified, to be selfish and out for yourself only, and all of these things. We need to expand past that, because this is absolutely, completely out of alignment with the truth. And so to understand that the basic definition of your ego is the aspect of the divine that you came here to represent, that you represent the little bit of consciousness that you are. So remembering, there is the divine consciousness that represents everything, that is everything, not represents everything. There's the divine consciousness that we call the divine, but we could just call it everything. The void, all the stuff in it, everything, blah, blah, blah. Anything that exists, anything that doesn't exist, it's the everything. And then within that, there are fractals. There's little bits of it. We've created a situation where there's dividing lines so that all of consciousness could learn about itself. And we've talked about this, right? If the body were one amalgamous blob, we would have no idea how it functioned. Because it's all little individual pieces, that is the reason we can understand. That's how we know about it. Yeah? So it is just like, though, that just because the liver is a separate organ doesn't mean it's separate. It's a part of the body. If it completely lost its identity and acted like the heart sometimes and acted like the lungs, the body would fall apart. We need the liver to be the liver in order for the whole to function. We need the heart to just do the heart thing in order for the body to function. If, like I say, if the cells are to forget what their role is and they pretend to be something else, the body starts to fall apart. And that is what we are seeing in humanity. Yeah? If it were really true that getting rid of the ego was going to make us feel great, that rejecting and denying who we are was going to be the answer to all of our pain and all of our suffering, we would be the most blissed out group of humans on the planet. Because nobody on the planet, very, very, very few people, are accepting who they are. No one is living their ego. No one is living as themselves, embracing their emotions, embracing their thoughts, embracing their desires, embracing their creative capacity, moving from a place of, this is who I am and this is what I want to do in the world. Most people are acting from their inner child. The fear, the lack of information, that's all fear is. Fear is, I don't know how this works. I am under attack. There is a threat to my survival at all times, and I gotta fight against the environment in order to survive. That's fear. I don't understand it, so I'm under attack. Yeah? That's not ego. So again, if we were all going to be saved by believing our egos don't exist, by getting rid of our individuality, by getting rid of all the things that make us who we are, we would be so happy, because we are a culture that is addicted to getting rid of who we are so we can all be the same. And we are miserable in that. We are completely miserable. And so, like I said in the last video, this is why so many people, because the culture says, if you're different, that's bad, that's a threat. We don't know what you're gonna do, so then you're a threat to me, so everyone just act the same. Everyone just act like an adult, and here's what are the parameters of the adult. Everyone just be predictable so that you're not a threat, yeah, to the society or the structure. And that's from old, really long time ago, right? The tribal leader said, don't be an individual, because if I can't predict you, you might be planning to kill me. So be like everyone else. That's just old shit. This is not a spiritual teaching. Get rid of your ego is not a spiritual teaching. It's old, tribal, misunderstanding how things work, bullcrap. That's what it is, okay? Way, 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 way back. Don't be an individual, because that's a threat to the group. That's lack of understanding. Yeah? Okay. Now, so we got to get that. That is not a spiritual teaching. It is not a spiritual teaching. It is not a spiritual teaching. It is a fear-based culture that for all of human history has been in a state of fear, as in a state of not understanding. That we have believed that there's not enough resources, we are in competition with one another, and that everyone outside of me is a threat to my survival. And so if I can't predict them, and if I can't predict the reality, right, we did the same thing with reality, then it's a threat to me and we got to get rid of it. So if you want to be included in the tribe, don't be a threat to the leader. And the way to not be a threat to the leader is to be completely predictable. And the way to be predictable is to be not an ego, but a part of the community. Don't be an individual, don't be different, don't be weird, don't do anything I can't understand, because that scares me. That's all this teaching of don't be an ego, that's where that came from. It's not a spiritual teaching. It's a don't threaten the leadership teaching. Okay? So if we understand that, and we can see now, people have been fighting with their egos forever. People are fighting against who they are in order to fit into the tribe in every way possible. And most of us are succeeding brilliantly. Most of us are completely disconnected from who we are. We have no idea who we are, what we like, what we're doing. And again, we're suffering because of that. And then we've made up this big story that if I am who I am, I'm going to get rejected, and that is death. Okay, again, completely false. That's not true anymore. You can be a completely self-sufficient individual in our society. We have managed to get enough resources, especially in the Western world. You don't need people to approve of you to survive anymore. This is a huge, huge thing that we need to break out of. It is not true. It is not true. You are not going to get killed. You are not going to get beheaded. The tribal leader is not going to come after you. You could lose all your friends. There are literally men in Japan who don't go outside, who have no interaction with the outside world, who sit on their computers and play video games all day, and they're surviving because technology. They get their food delivered, they pay their rent, they figure out a way to make money online. No one's approving of them. No one even knows them. And they're surviving just fine, right? It's a myth. It's an illusion. You're not going to die if you get rejected. And we need to start breaking past that. And then the second thing is, you need to understand that the more you step into who you are, the actual being that you are, yes, at first it's going to be painful, because there's going to be all of these immature aspects of self that need to be matured. And that is a painful process. To parent yourself the way you were not parented, right? To be with that anger that your mom and dad made you do this thing that you didn't want to do. To be with that sadness that you had to face these things that you didn't understand. To be with all of the pain that the reality went in a way that you didn't think that it should have, or that it didn't go the way you thought it should have, is hard work. This is why parents don't parent, because it's hard. It's really hard to actually parent somebody. And we have to do that for ourselves now. And that's a part of growing up. It's that you take all your traumas, you take all your fears, you take all the stuff you don't understand about the reality, and you face it. You go into it. You don't run away from it. You don't try to use all the spiritual bullshit out there that tells you can get rid of your negative emotions or get rid of your negative thoughts. No, you're going to face it. Why do I believe this? What does this feeling have to show me? Why does this feel shitty in my body? This is all reality. I'm not going to get rid of it. So I have to face it. That's what an adult does. And we don't see a lot of adults. Most adults are not adults. Most people are not adults. We're just big, overgrown children who are afraid of ourselves and are afraid of the reality. So that's, again, the first thing. And this is why no one grows up, almost no one grows up, is because they're truly afraid of their own emotions. They're truly afraid of their own thoughts. They're truly afraid of their own individuality. Because, yeah, it did get them rejected and people didn't like it and all that stuff happened. But again, we have to grow up. That's what self-love is. It's growing up. Okay, yeah, people don't like it, but this is who I am. I've tried my entire life, and I bet you, just sit there, think for a second. You've been trying your whole life not to be yourself. You've been trying your whole life to get rid of who you are. Did it make you a more productive, amazing, happy, blissful member of society? Or did it make you a cog in the wheel who's miserable and depressed most of the time? Who needs TV and food and sex and drugs and all of these other things to get by, and if you don't have that shit, you're just depressed out of your mind. If you're miserable, you can't sit with yourself, you're crawling out of your own skin, you don't like who you are, you don't like being with you, life is really hard for you, everything seems scary, you don't know what to do, and that is because you have rejected your ego. That has nothing to do with your ego. That is a rejection of ego. So yeah, you're going to have to face all that pain. You're going to have to face all that rejection. And people did reject you, and you did go through hard things. And that's how you learn self-love. It's not about the outside approving of you. It's not about everyone in the world telling you how great you are. That's not being an adult. That's being a child. If you need external love as the only source of love that exists for you, so again, I'm not saying you can't enjoy interdependency. Of course, you're going to have relationships. You're going to have people that love you, and that love is going to feel good. But if you're saying, I can't be myself, I can't express who I am, I can't do what I want to do because I'm not doing that in exchange for trying to get love, you are going to feel empty and miserable. And again, just look at your own life. If you are rejecting yourself in order to be approved of, how great do you feel right now? Is it working? Are you feeling amazing and loved and filled up, or do you feel empty inside? Does it feel like no matter how much anyone loves you, no matter how much anyone gives you, no matter how much resource you have, no matter how much security you have, there's always this fear it's going to go away. There's always this fear that it's not enough. There's always this feeling that it's not stable, it's not secure, it's going to go away. Yeah, right? Because it isn't. And it will. It's completely fluctuating. Because again, the love that we're looking for is the unconditional kind. And that is not going to be found in the world. You can only find the unconditional kind of love inside. And that comes from accepting your ego, who you actually are. And then again, once you start to do that, so you start to mature the inner child, you're doing your emotional mastery work, you're healing your emotions, you're facing your fears, you're ending your spiritual bypassing, you're stopping to pretending these parts of yourself don't exist or that you're going to get rid of anything. And you're realizing everything's a message for me to grow up. Everything is a message for me to grow up. Everything that I went through was exactly what I needed to go through. I'm not going to change the past. The past doesn't need to be changed. I don't want to clear the past. I don't want to clear my emotions. I wouldn't want to clear it because it's exactly what I needed to grow. It's information. It's like going to grade 1, going to grade 2. The challenges were what woke me up. You're going to start to figure that out. And then you're going to start to realize, now that I'm being my ego, not my inner child. So, right, the inner child says life is threat. So I'm trying desperately to find comfort. I'm running away from anything that's scary. I'm moving towards pleasure and away from pain all the time. That's a ridiculous life. Because that's not how life works. When you're an adult, when you're in your ego, when you've matured the inner child, you're not a jealous, crazy, angry freak. That's the child. When you're an adult, you're not moving away from pain and towards pleasure. You're all about growth. You move from an inner place of inner inspiration. You're a generator of energy all of a sudden. There's a flow about you. You're not doing things out of a motivation to find comfort or stability. You're moving from a place of creativity and expansion and exploration. And failure is great because you learn something. All of your crazy fears, that failing and people not liking me and all this stuff, you get rid of all that. As in you mature all of that. You mature all of it. And you realize that stuff's gonna happen. People are gonna reject you. You're gonna fail. You're gonna try things and it's not gonna go the way you think it's gonna go because you don't know how the reality functions yet. You're always gonna be learning. You're always gonna be growing. You're never gonna get there. You're not gonna ascend and then be done. It's a continual cycle and it becomes fun. This is the thing. Owning your ego is what's gonna make you happy. Owning your ego is what's going to make it possible for you to connect with other people. Because when you're the immature inner child, anyone or anything that's different from you is a threat. So you can't connect. So by thinking that you're going to stay not yourself to connect actually makes it so you can't connect with anyone or anything. Because everything from that point of view is different from you and is a threat. Because you didn't actually get rid of you. You're just afraid of you. You see? You're not going to get rid of the ego. You're not going to get rid of your ego. You're not going to get rid of your ego. You're going to mature the inner child so that it becomes a part of your ego. And you can represent yourself as an adult. And then you are a creator. You are inspired. You are responsible. This is really true. You're not moral. You don't need laws. You don't need someone to tell you that you're going to get in trouble if you do something or rewarded if you do something. You understand your connection to everyone and everything and are naturally a responsible human being. That's what being in the ego is. You are creative and your creations expand humanity because that's what being in an ego is. Because you're completely aware of who you are, being intricately connected to everything and everyone else. So what you want to do is to give. You become more generous, more free, more amazing, less crazy, the more in alignment you are with your ego. So that is the truth. You try and get rid of your ego, you're going to be miserable. Forever. You're already miserable. That's what you've been doing. Embrace your emotions, embrace your thoughts, embrace what makes you different, and then you're going to be able to see how connected you are to everything, what you have to offer. You're going to be able to love everything because you're going to see it as yourself. It's the paradox, okay? So I'll see you in the next video as you.